So, it's not exactly difficult to come across information these days, but it is rather rare to stumble across accurate information. There's lots of misinformation that goes around online, the fake news, I suppose you can call it. But there's a lot of it, and it can be hard to tell what's true, hard to tell what's not true. So I'd like to try and go over a few guidelines today to try and help anybody who might be curious about this type of thing. Now, first of all, whenever you find any information, no matter who you find it from, even if it is from a very trusted source, do not trust it immediately, because that can lead to jumping to conclusions. Even if you do trust your source, there's a chance that they may have been misinformed, so you don't want to use accidental misinformation, right? So, don't jump on it immediately if you find it from somebody good. Now, what if it comes from somebody bad, some person who does not have a good reputation? Well, don't dismiss it immediately either, because even the worst news sources will occasionally, by accident, squirt out a little nugget of truth. Now, in short, that just means keep an open mind. Take all of the information in that you can. Then, once you have the information, if you did not get it from a trusted news source, go to a trusted news source and see how it holds up to those people. Then, go to the people on the far other side, the people that you do not trust, and see what they're saying about it. Then go to the people that you have no opinion of whatsoever, and see what they have to say on the matter as well. Looking at all sides of the debate is going to be very useful when trying to extrapolate information. Even when you are told a lie, you can still extrapolate valuable information from it once you discern what parts of what you're told was a lie and what parts may have truth to them. So, you collect all this information from all of the different sources, every possible one that you can. You compare them to each other. And the most important way that I can find to do that is to try and find some way to organize the information that you have. For me personally, it would be journaling. I use a big old spiral-bound notebook. I write down everything that I've learned in a linear progression, and then try to use that to explain it to other people as best that I can. For you, it might be something different. You might want to use spreadsheets, or you might want to use color-coded files in an actual drawer or something like that. Whatever is best for you is going to be best for you. It works good for me this way, but just because it works for me does not necessarily mean it will work for you. You have to find your own organizational tools, because if you organize it, you're going to remember where that stuff is much better than if I tried to organize it for you, or if anyone tried to organize it for you. It would behoove you quite a lot. So, once you have gathered all of this stuff together, then you can actually start to determine what is true, what is false, what is good, and what is bad, right? That's pretty much the entirety of it. That's pretty much all you have to do to be able to find information in the modern day. Just be wary, but don't be too wary. That's about it, but I'd like to go over just a couple of additional guidelines, because nothing here that I've said is absolutely concrete. There is always an exception to the rule. So, a few things to keep in mind when going forward. First one would be Occam's razor. Essentially, that essentially means that the simplest solution is more than likely the correct solution. Usually, that does tend to be the case. Whatever is the simplest case, you can point to that and be fairly certain that is what happened. But that is not always what happens, because there are rare and absurd events that do happen every day, just not nearly as often as the other events, the commonplace ones. When using Occam's razor to determine between those two different things, it's going to help you cut through a lot of the bullshit. Beyond that, we also do have to keep our Sherlock Holmes in mind. Right? Anything that is impossible, once that's been ruled out, anything that is left, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. So, again, that kind of goes against the whole Occam's razor idea, wherein it may not be the simplest thing, but it is not always the simplest thing. Sometimes you do have to rule out the impossible and be left with something that is extraordinarily strange, something that can either confront you personally and send you into some sort of existential crisis, or perhaps even send you into complete denial and shut down and not want to hear anything about it. These are natural responses because we're humans. Humans tend to respond these ways to things that they don't like. Lord knows that I have before, at least. So, in any case, the last bit is that you should remember that multiple things can be true at the same time, even if they do appear to be contradictory. Right? Again, there is always an exception to the rule, including that rule. There are some rules that do not have exceptions, in which case it is an exception to that rule that I just stated. That seems pretty roundabout, but I think that's just about the only thing that anybody can say with any true and legitimate certainty, is that there is always an exception to the rule. So, remember, things can be true at the same time. It can be true that the average, IQ of a certain population is typically pretty low, but it can also be pretty true that those people are not stupid. That's just one example, and there are many, many confounding examples out there like that. So keep these things in mind. But above all, remember to breathe. When trying to dig through information, when having debates, when looking through the news, all this kind of stuff, it can be very stressful. It can feel like it's overwhelming, like there's too much. And again, that is a very natural thing. The human psyche is amazingly powerful, but very delicate at the same time. Again, one of those things that is true, though apparently contradictory. We are strong, but we're not strong. We're smart, but we're also not smart. These things happen all the time. So breathe. If you don't like what you see, you can stand up, walk away, and live your life for a minute. You don't have to spend every waking second of your life dealing with this, but it is important to try your best to deal with it as often as you can. There's the whole Rule 303. Do what you can, when you can, where you can, and for as long as you can. I subscribe to that. I like that idea. So, I want to try and push that as much as possible. In any case, I'm going to go have myself a good evening, and I hope you do as well.